Hello, beautiful souls. Welcome to another episode of Karma Cards. Every week I'm like, so it's crazy. Okay. But really, we are in a time where the energy just keeps building and building and building. And if you're paying attention to the solar weather, you're seeing it right now. We're just getting like flash after flash, flare after flare of this high intensity proton and the photon energy that's coming in from the sun. So it's sending out its plasma energy, it's coating the planet, it's entering into our consciousness through these little spheres of light coming in and coating us and working on our DNA and helping us upgrade. And it's moving rapidly that which is not a match to our higher frequencies out of our system. So it's weird that we're getting an upgrade, but we can tend to feel not so great. We feel worn out, we feel tired, maybe extra sensitive, maybe old emotions or things that we are suppressing in ourselves are coming up to be healed. And that is how the subconscious works. When we're ready, when we've got the tools, our subconscious will release to us what it is that needs to be healed. So you might feel like you're being confronted at times by your own subconscious mind with the past, with things that you've said or done, with actions that you've taken that you feel are out of alignment with you, maybe with experiences that have happened to you that feel out of alignment with what you want to experience in your own life, and it's asking you to review it and clear it. So this is the process we're undergoing right now. And right now we're in this rapid fire, which can be very exhausting because every time we get this blast of energy from the sun, we are being upgraded on some level. The Arcturians are talking about, so when the Arcturian Council comes through the spirit circle readings, they're talking about the activation of more strands of DNA, which also can be an exhausting event. So as we clear those heavy lower vibrations, the things that keep us attached to the more physical realm, as we clear that and move more into our frequency space, we activate another strand of DNA. These start to come online. Currently, some people are activating 3 strands of DNA. Some are activating 4. There's groups who are activating 5. We're activating these DNA strands. And again, it's sort of creating this shift in our consciousness, but also in our perspective. We're opening, we are seeing things from multidimensional angles. We're not so black and white in our thinking. We're more nuanced, and shades of gray are coming up. And while all this is happening, we are preparing for our next Mercury retrograde, which is happening the evening of August 4th, which is also the day of the new moon in Leo. And so we've got this big energy happening at the end of this week. Currently, today is Wednesday, July 31st. By the time you see it, we're already into August. And we're experiencing the shadow of Mercury retrograde. And this one's interesting because it crosses signs. So where Mercury retrograde starts is in the sign of Virgo. And this is about a review about details. We're getting into the details of our own healing. Virgo is very much a sign about healing. It's a sign about being imbalanced. And so part of this Mercury retrograde process, which is always an internal review, is to look at the details of how we're addressing our healing. And I know people are talking about this all over the place. I've got clients talking to me about their healing. I see people commenting on it. It's very much at the forefront of our minds, as it should be. It's just naturally part of the process. As we're going through this upgrade, our concern is around what needs to be healed. So the first part is around this healing. The second half of this Mercury retrograde will go into the sign of Leo, which precedes Virgo. We're going backwards, so we're going back into Leo. Mercury in Leo is more about how am I communicating my leadership? How am I thinking from a place of leadership? How am I thinking from a place of sovereignty? So this will be under review, where we will be looking at, am I standing in the position of a leader, a creator, a sovereign being, or am I still running some victim mentalities somewhere in my life, and I'm going to look at that. I'm going to review it. I'm going to look at the choices I've made previously and see if I'm making these choices from both a healthy place and from a place of leadership. And I'm going to review that and make adjustments as necessary. Many people find Mercury retrograde to be a period of frustration because it slows down what is intended to move forward. Mercury is a fast-moving planet. It's often associated with business. And so when it comes to our business, we might feel like there's a little bit of a slowdown or a hitch in the system. Mercury also covers communication, so many times it affects our technology. And I wouldn't be surprised if we had some technical glitches during this Mercury retrograde that goes through the end of August. Pretty much the entire month of August, we're in Mercury retrograde. We're either in its shadow like we are right now, in Mercury retrograde, or coming out on the other side in the shadow where we're wrapping it up. So August is a review period for us astrologically. And this brings me to the topic that the team has in store. But before I mention that, I almost forgot. There is so much happening on August 4th that I am there to support you with. And that is the New Moon Spirit Circle is happening. Here's the link. You can find the link in the description below, as well as a free event I do live on Insight Timer, the app Insight Timer. That's also linked below, and you can join me there. We're going to be going through the water vessel ritual, which will help us with our manifestation. So if you're interested in either one of those events and like to join me live, talk to me, do some psychic Q&A at the Spirit Circle, hear from the Arcturians directly, go ahead and click those links below, and I'd love to have you join us. So getting back to the message from the team today, what they want you to know is what is for you won't miss you. And they're speaking specifically to the healing work that we're all working on right now. I've gotten some interesting feedback from people that they're concerned that they're going to be too late for maybe this ascension process. Because as you can see, we're definitely in the zone for a solar flash, which is when we're supposed to shift as a collective together. This big flash will be the shifting point for all of us. What I want you to know, what my team wants you to know, is you will not miss what is for you. So it doesn't matter if you've been working on this for years or you just woke up to it. We want everyone to come with us, as many people as we can. That's the goal. That's been the goal for all of us on a deep subconscious level we might not be aware of. That has been the goal. You know, it's where we go one, we go all. We truly are desiring to go together here. So know that, number one, if you're just sort of waking up to this process and realizing that it's underway, it's the perfect time. You got here just in time. You're doing great. Nothing is going to miss you if it wasn't for you. And there are people on the planet who just, they're not choosing it for whatever reason. And that's free will. That's their choice. They didn't do anything wrong. They didn't make a bad choice. That's just not what feels in alignment with them. They don't feel like they're missing anything, number one. They don't have an emotional attachment to this event because they don't feel connected. They're not choosing it. And that doesn't mean that they consciously went, oh, I saw that and I don't choose it. They may have seen it, and in their mind, they're like, this is ridiculous. There's nothing to this. They have no emotional connection to it, no positive emotional connection, and no negative. They have not chosen it at the soul level. Absolutely fine. Nothing wrong with that. And they can, at some point, choose again if they want to. We have the free will to do that. But the important thing I want to note here is the emotional connection is important for us to understand if it is within our sphere of destiny, if it is within our soul's intention to do this work. We will feel emotionally attached. We might have a fear that we're missing out, like, oh my God, I hope that I'm included. Just by having that emotional energy to it, you already are. And if you're like, oh my God, I'm so excited for it, also connected. I want to share this with you, and the team wants me to make sure it's known so that you're not approaching the work of healing with this sense of panic or fear. because there is no right time to wake up to this. We wake up in the time it takes us to wake up. So you're not missing anything. You're not going to be left behind. There is no point at which you're going to be denied this if it's what your soul truly wants. And again, I'm hyper focused on it. I find it fascinating. I love to talk about it. It's a great mystery that it's like we can kind of feel the edges of it, but in truth, it's hard to know this experience in full. And so even though I'm incredibly excited about it and it's a huge event and I feel that it holds a lot of energy, it is not the only experience that's going on this planet. There are people here who also will not go on that journey for whatever reason. It's just not something I'm really clocked into because, again, my attention and emotions and excitement are more directed in this direction. And I want to share with you that people are waking up at different points in time to this. There are people who will surprise you, who will, right before things really start going, are awake to it and suddenly on board. That's going to happen too. So there's a lot of time and energy building up to this big event, which again feels like it's happening within this window of time. It's hard to predict. When I asked the Arcturians to give us a timestamp, they said it really depends on humanity here, that we're sort of the signal, if you will, not a specified date and time. So even though we're looking at the sun going, sun, tell us when you're going to do this, in reality, the sun is reacting to us and our readiness for the experience. And since we all agreed before we got here, we had a mutual understanding and agreement that as many that want to go is the intention. So as many as we can have come with us. And they'll come at the time that they're ready. They'll come when it's a call within them, and to trust the process. So as we're going through this period of time where we're being asked to review, we're being asked to hold this energy gently within ourselves, because you might find that a lot of stuff is coming up where you're like, ooh, that wasn't the best choice, or oh, I regret those words, or I regret that action, or that mindset I've been holding on to for so long has really held me apart from maybe relationships, or it's held me apart from opportunities, or it's held me apart from my own healing. And I was so stubbornly holding on to it. All of this is for our benefit and for us to learn, not to come from a place of judgment. Now, when Mercury is in Virgo, one of the hardest parts of that is Virgo's shadow is one of judgment. It's very harsh and criticizing and analytical. That's the dark side of Virgo. The bright side being, of course, it's very detail-oriented, specific. It understands. It sees it clearly, what it's looking at. It can pull it apart and see the layers. So we want to activate the gifts of Virgo. I keep saying Virgo. We want to activate the gifts of Mercury in Virgo, or Mergo, and be careful of its shadow of becoming harsh, critical, and judgmental. Now, if you have a particularly strong inner critic, this is a point where you're going to have to be very gentle with yourself and work on, part of the work then is untying this critical energy, this judgmental energy, and ask yourself constantly, is there another way I could view this, or is there a purpose for this? So when I find something I'm critical about, let's say laziness or avoidance, let's say I find that and I'm like, oh, this is because of laziness or avoidance. I need to look at, is there a benefit? Did I perceive a benefit, rather than deciding I'm doing something wrong because I'm a flawed individual? I need to try to figure out what I thought the payoff was at that point in time, and get more curious than critical. So when we find ourselves being critical, the antidote is curiosity. Rather than to make a judgment, Because again, then we're just wounding ourselves all over again, aren't we? If we're trying to heal this inner critic and we just keep criticizing ourselves for what we find, then we're allowing that critic to run rather than healing it. And so during this time, and really all times when we're doing healing work, but especially now, where we become critical of ourselves or others, the desire should be to become curious. Now, if you have a particularly harsh inner critic like myself, that voice is going to fight you on this curiosity and say, oh no, you're giving permission for this naughty behavior. It's going to push back because our ego always does. It's fighting to stay in power. And the answer to that is to continue to be curious. Interesting. Why do I think that? Why do I think that by spending time investigating this area that I'm condoning it? Let me ponder that. So you can see there's going to be a lot of contemplation during this period. And that's a very powerful tool to help us heal and move through, because many things in our own behavior, once they are understood by us, once we have an understanding of it, we have more power within us to make a new decision, let it go, overcome it, heal it, integrate it, move forward in the positive direction. But if it's not understood, if it's something we keep refusing to look at because of whatever reason, whether I'm refusing to look at it because I'm afraid I'm validating it if I look at it, that might be one thing. I'm refusing to look at it because if I do, then I'm going to feel like a bad person, maybe. Whatever the reasons, we're going to be asked to sit with it again and review it and look at it and try to understand. Because if we can move to understanding, then we've got new options. And if we can also recognize that our behavior is not indicative of who we are, this one is tough for people. A lot of times we categorize ourselves as either good or bad based on our previous actions, our previous behaviors. I would rather that you see yourself as inherently good, and the behaviors or choices, those might be more in alignment or out of alignment, right? I mean, or good or bad if that's how you want to classify it. But it's just stop assigning yourself as your behavior. See yourself as a being making choices. And that way, instead of consigning yourself to a set of behaviors, part of the reason we have a hard time breaking through those is because we've decided they are us. I am that behavior. I am picky or critical. I am lazy. I am whatever it is. We are assigning that to ourselves rather than seeing it's a choice that we're making. Because as soon as you put that buffer of space between you and the action, you and the thought, you and the words, what you see is that you're a being with choices in front of you. And where it didn't feel like it was a choice before because you were identifying with the choice, now that you've stepped back, you realize, okay, that was the choice I made. But now I also see that this choice is available and that choice, and I can make a different choice moving forward. I am not condemned to make the same choice because I'm not aligning my sense of self with that choice. And so we're rarely going to go through this review. And like I said, many people find Mercury retrograde to be a little bit negative, but I feel like this one has that opportunity of, again, setting us free from the limits, the self limits that we impose. And it gives us another opportunity once again to see it and review it and really, again, get curious about, how am I connecting to this? How am I, is it just a choice, or have I taken it on as a part of me, a part of my identity? And now that I see what I'm doing, can I make a different choice? And can I undo that connection and separate myself so that I can clearly see it? And I can realize I'm free to make a new choice. And I feel like sometimes it's that simple for us to be able to move forward. So again, there's a lot to say, that what's for you will not miss you. The work that you need to do now, whether it feels overwhelming, like you've got a handle on it, It's perfectly aligned and timed. You're not missing anything. And if you find that your awareness continues to grow and you begin to see more and more, that is not a sign of failure. That's actually a sign that you are expanding. You're seeing it now. And that's always a positive step. It always indicates that you have already up-leveled in consciousness and expanded to a new level and are moving forward. So with that, let's take a look at this week's karma card. All right, if you're new to karma cards, let me quickly show you how these work. I have 3 decks here: planets, signs of the zodiac, and the houses of astrology. And I've already asked my team, what is the message for this week? And I've got 2 sets of answers, a set in red, which are action related, and a set in blue, which are outcome related. And the way that you play is you tune in with that beautiful intuition of yours and feel, what is the guidance you're looking for this week? Are you looking for action related guidance, or are you looking for outcomes? And of course, you can always choose both. And while you're choosing, let me tell you the timing for this reading. This reading is for July 31st through August 6th. And the flavor of this reading, we've got Jupiter. Love seeing Jupiter, happy benefic planet, all about expansion. There's some leadership energy there because Jupiter is related to Zeus, king of the gods, right? So we've got this leadership energy and a lot of optimism and positivity, can-do attitude. In the sign of Libra, which is all about balance and harmonizing and bringing things together, it's that we're looking for the win-win with this energy. In the 8th house, which is the house of transformation. So this is where the transformation is occurring. And with the 8th house, we're looking at this house that's ruled by Scorpio. Scorpio is all about getting down to the truth. So this is about the truth coming up for us to, again, harmonize, balance, and see from a positive perspective. All right, for those who are choosing action, your spiritual action at this time is to learn or teach relationships as a life or death issue. Okay, they're really saying the word relationship here, where we tend to hear that as a relationship to others, and you could look at it that way. But specifically regarding the message that they have, this is about the relationship between yourself, the behavior, your choices, your experiences. Learn the relationship as a life or death issue. Get clear on it. You are one thing. You are source having a very unique experience in the human body temporarily to experience this perspective that you're holding. Then there's the choices you make and the thoughts you think and the feelings that you have and the outcomes you experience. These things are in relation to the source having a very unique human experience. That's the relationship they're asking us to learn, because so often we identify, like I was saying earlier, with the problem. We identify with the feeling. We identify with the thought, thinking we are those things, and we are not. We are something bigger, something more than that. And when we create that awareness of this relationship, when we get ourselves aware of it, when we give ourselves the space, the step back, it is so much easier to make the aligned choice, because you're no longer identifying as a very specific choice. Now you are stepping back and going, oh, that's a choice I've made. That's not me. That means I can make this other choice now if I desire it. All right, total sidebar. This is something I meant to mention earlier. One of the things that happens while we're getting all these upgrades is, again, psychic attunement. Please tell me in the comments if you're having this experience. I'm getting so much extrasensory activity in my peripheral vision, which is connected, by the way, to your clairvoyance. So when your clairvoyance is stronger or activated, you'll start to see things. I'm trying to look straight ahead and see it. You'll see things moving in your peripheral vision. It is off the charts for me lately. There's so much movement. And not only that, the clairaudience is kicking up. Earlier when I was recording, I heard a voice and I had to leave the recording and go, I'm home alone right now. So I had to go look around and be like, who is talking? So much happening right now. So please leave in the comments. Even my comments. Are you having these experiences? Are you noticing your psychic attunement getting stronger? And are you having those weird experiences? Because in a way they're fun, and in another way they're sort of unsettling. I'm not scared. I'm just like, you can't control when these things are going off. So it's always a little bit like, like what, who dat? So let me know. Yeah, it's happening so much. It's like making me feel all over the place. Back to the cards. Mental action at this time. Be positive about the reality of getting and using power. The power they're speaking of is the power of awareness, which is a huge power. A lot of times we associate power with other things, but power to create something new or different always starts with awareness. When we can catch ourselves in the middle of one of these self-limiting beliefs, or in the middle of overly identifying with a behavioral pattern or line of thinking or perspective, whatever it is, when we can catch ourselves doing that, that's the power of awareness. And that's the gift of this time, is to really review and become even more aware of when it happens. It's not always a great feeling, but you should be really proud of yourself at the same time. It's not a great feeling because a lot of times what we're becoming aware of is what needs to shift, because it's what's being asked to shift so you can go higher. Again, imagine yourself in a hot air balloon, and the sandbags that hold it to the ground are the things that have to be cut loose so you can fly up. The things that have to be cut loose right now, the limiting beliefs, the negative thoughts, the places where we close our heart, these are the things that are the sandbags holding you down. They have to be cut loose. That's why that's what's coming up in our awareness. It doesn't always feel great because, again, if we associate our worthiness, our goodness with what we find, we're going to feel pretty crappy about it. My hope is that you start to appreciate the awareness more than you feel crappy about whatever it is you find. And look, every single one of us is going through this. I don't care how spiritually evolved you are. If you're still here, if you're not already ascending, you've got some stuff to work through. That is okay, right? That's beautiful. That's exactly where you're supposed to be. We need you here. We're doing this as a group. It's 100% fine. It's easy to judge. We got to get awareness around that. Getting aware of the hypercritical, of the judgment. The judgment and the criticism serve to show us, okay, this is what I want to shift, right? If we're okay with it, we don't need to shift it. If we're feeling critical or judgmental, all it was a tool for us to go, yeah, that's what I want to shift. We've got to disassociate our identity with that, though, and stop shaming or punishing ourselves or others for what we find that we don't like. Easier said than done, but that's where the power is, and that's the job right now. Physical action at this time: grow and expand, do it with your partners, and use other people's resources. Okay, so do it with your partners. That's all of us. We're all partners in this, right? We're, like I said, we're trying to go as one big group, and we're holding on for however many are about to shift, want to shift, ready to shift, are just waking up to this idea. We're holding on for that because the critical mass piece is important for the timing of when we go forward. Other people's resources. There is a plethora of resources attempting to help us do this right now. This video is one. There are so many more out there. There are great teachers. There are great tools. There's lectures, meditations, holding space, healers, so much. Just conversations with friends. All of these things are resources that you can use to help you do this. We're in this together. Like I said, where we go one, we go all. We're going together to do this. And it's easier actually to do it together. This is a journey that, Ascension is a journey that has been in periods of time very individual, because it wasn't an ascension period, but people have ascended individually, continue to ascend individually all the time. we are very lucky because we're going to do this as a group, and there's a lot of resources out there. What you want to look for is something that resonates with your heart. So when you're hearing it and feeling it, it should resonate for you. If it's something that causes fear, stress, or anxiety, if it feels constricting, then that's not the message for you. If it feels expanding, if it feels peaceful, it feels calming, if it gives you strength, these are the messages that are for you. There's so many out there. Use those resources. Know that we're doing this together. So now let's look at outcomes with Jupiter in Libra in the 8th house of transformation. Spiritual outcome at this time, the granting of cooperation to perfect personal power. I feel like the cooperation they're talking about here is really the cooperation inside the mind. Like I said, our ego is something that tries to keep us identifying with things. It's just the nature of the ego. I wouldn't look at it like an enemy. I would just look at it as that's its function, to identify with things. And so it's naturally trying to figure out who you are through your life experience, through your choices, your feelings, your beliefs, your patterns, your likes and dislikes. That's its job. I don't think it's evil. I just think that it has a kind of a one note experience of itself, and it's always going to try and identify with something. I feel like at this time, though, maybe it has to do with the massive influx of solar energy we're under. There's just something about this time where the ego is softening, or it's easier for us to create, like I said, that buffer of space between what we actually are and the thought, the feeling, the experience, the emotion, whatever it is. It's easier to do it. And I feel like maybe in this window of time, the ego is softened somehow. It's the visual that they're giving me is it's instead of being like a sharp, crisp image I'm looking at, I'm seeing something that's becoming kind of blurry and hazy. It's not as strong a sense of identity. And so therefore it's easier to do this work. So we're being blessed with that at this time. Thank goodness. Mental outcome at this time, blessings from decisions about the mysteries of life. Kind of the beautiful thing about this world. Okay, there's this beautiful synergy in that life is a mystery. We don't actually know the answers. Some of us feel pretty sure about what we believe, but we don't know it. It's mostly based on faith. What's beautiful about that, because there's no hard, defined answer, it remains a mystery. There, like many things can be true at the same time when it comes to the mystery of life. Because of that, we get to activate the power of the observer effect. And the observer effect states that what we observe about something makes it true, that we're actually co-creating with it. So there is this understanding that I'm co-creating with the mystery of life. The mystery of life is something bigger than I can identify. I feel like I'm getting closer to it. And the mystery of life is sort of responding and saying, okay, is that how you feel? Okay, yeah, that's true. That is true about me, which gives us this beautiful power. So if we can kind of affect the mystery, then we can start making some decisions about it, that it's working in my favor. It's conspiring on my behalf. It's loving and supportive. All of that you will work and make it true. You will experience, because the mystery of life is responding to you. Now, there are people out there who will be like, there's no life force responding to me. I'm just animated, and then I turn into dust and die, and I no longer exist, and there's nothing. And the mystery of life goes, yeah, that's kind of true, sure, and responds. We get to have the experience that we're deciding on. And as my team has said before, a decision made from a sense of personal power will generate something in the field. They call it the manifestation point of 0 point energy. So once you've decided something and you are deciding from a place of again, I am a co-creator with the universe, well, you've just put something into motion. Whether you believe that statement or not, you're still putting it into motion, which is why, again, we can never have universal agreement about anything because we're all sort of creating what we're expecting to get. And so what it's saying right now is use that beautiful power of co-creation with the universe and expect to be blessed by it, for you will be. So why not have it love you and care about you and work in your favor? You could also decide the opposite, but I don't want that experience. And since the great mystery of life seems to just be responding to you, it's like conscious and it's like waiting for you to give it like, okay, what direction are we going in? You might as well lean into love. You might as well lean into support and feeling empowered, and the mystery of life will give that back. And so it's kind of a beautiful synergy that they're talking about here. Physical outcome at this time, good fortune resulting from the fairness shown by a major change. Feel like the major change they're talking about is when you step back from over identifying with a patterned thought, belief, or whatever. When you actually create that space, that's the major change. Might be a small thought, but it creates a major change because now you are no longer stuck or confined to this. Like, how many people have you heard say, I'm just a lazy person? They are identifying themselves with the issue that they actually don't want, but they're merging themselves with it. And they have a hard time seeing themselves as a productive person because they've identified in a certain way, right? So they get locked in. And now imagine that same person stepping back and going, I am me. I am source in a body having an experience. And the experience I had here was one of feeling lazy or detached or unmotivated. Okay, I've tried that one. Now I can choose productive or secure or motivated, whatever it is. I'm free to choose that now. I don't have to keep choosing the same experience because that was just an experience. It's not me. It's a major shift. There's a blessing in that. That's what they're saying. Like, get ready. There is something really good that comes from being able to uncouple yourself from your thoughts, feelings, behaviors, and outcomes. How many times have we had an outcome that was unfavorable to us and we took it on as, this means I'm bad. I've done something wrong. I am a flawed person because of this. And I make all these judgments about myself because I went through this experience. It's not who you are. Who you are is something that can't be touched or sullied or made impure. There's a beautiful being inside just having experiences and making choices. And when we start to create that space, we give room for ourselves to choose again, and quite easily. And good fortune results from it because then you can see, well, I can choose what I feel aligned to. What I feel aligned to isn't laziness, it's productivity. I just didn't know I was blocking myself from fully receiving it because I was holding myself in a pattern, and I've just set myself free. So again, this might seem like a small movement. It has a bigger ripple effect in your life. And I hope that during this period of time, especially here at the start, we're really going to, again, the start of Mercury retrograde, August 4th, with the new moon, which also represents new things happening in the sign of Leo, which is personal power and sovereignty. We're going to undo some blockages, and it's going to be like these small little spaces that are created. And as they're created, you begin to feel freer and more at ease and more in alignment. It becomes easier and easier to choose that which is aligned to you because you're no longer toting around this identity of somebody who struggles in a certain way. So I'm sending you so much love. I wish for you lots of ahas and that beautiful space between you and decisions, feelings, thoughts, actions, those things, so that you can get into more alignment and feel that peace of knowing that it's just a choice and you get to make whatever choice feels most aligned to you now. Mwah.